Hello folks, this is Suzanne Collins with National Federation of Independent Business, NFIB, here in Pennsylvania. And we're bringing you this webinar to better show our small business construction contractors how they can do procurement with the state, bid on jobs, and how to use the online system that's required, which is a little tricky, but we have someone here with a lot of expertise. His name is Oz Anderson, and he works with Department of General Services, the Bureau of Small Business Opportunity. He's got a slideshow and a lot of explanation for you. So Oz, I'd like to introduce you and go ahead and proceed.
Good morning again, everyone. My name is Oz Anderson. I am the Construction Liaison with the Department of General Services, Bureau of Small Business Opportunities. It's a pleasure to be here this morning and have an opportunity to speak with our small businesses about our SBPI construction program. So with that, we're going to get right into the core of the information that I have to share with you today. What we'll be discussing are our online certification and verification programs. We'll talk a little bit about the purpose of our SBPI program. And last but not least, we'll engage in some conversation about our small business construction program and some recent modifications made to the SBPI construction program. All right, the very first thing that I'd like to share with you is that the Commonwealth has an initiative to increase the participation of small businesses on our state contracts. And very consistent with that initiative is the creation of the Small Business Procurement Initiative Program, or the acronym is SBPI program. The executive order that supports our new small business program is Executive Order 2011-9, entitled Small Business Procurement Initiative. It was signed into effect on November 21st of 2011. And what this really is the guidelines and policy that is in support of our new small business construction program. Now, if in fact there are any folks out there that would like to acquire more information on the executive order, all you'll need to do is go out and Google Tom Corbett Executive Orders, and Executive Order 2011-9 will be made available to you. All right, so what is the purpose of the SBPI program? The small business program was essentially created to develop a platform for small businesses to compete for state contracts without the presence of larger, more established companies. And it's important to understand that when the Commonwealth developed this program, a concerted effort was made to reduce a number of barriers that have typically been considered issues for small businesses in terms of their pursuit of state work. So an effort was made to reduce paperwork typically associated with small businesses acquiring work with the Commonwealth. There was an effort to relax bonding requirements, and I'm going to speak specifically about that when I talk about the small business construction program. And last but not least, there was an effort to expedite payment to small businesses. And when you consider the simple fact that with this small business program, we're creating prime contracting opportunities for smalls, when you consider the fact that these companies are working directly for the Commonwealth now, or directly for the owner, as opposed to serving as subcontractors and or suppliers to larger companies, that in itself has placed our small businesses in a position where they're paid much more quickly relative to any work that they perform for the Commonwealth.
You don't mind if I ask, generally, what is that amount of time? How, months, 2 months, 3 months? Can you give me an idea?
I'm going to say, and I don't have that language with me, but I believe the payment terms are generally within about 60 days. So that's would be my response.
Thank you.
Now, in order to participate in our small business program, there are 2 essential steps that must take place. And there's actually an online process in place. We're not going to move through all of the screenshots associated with self-certifying and verifying through that online process. But again, we want to talk about the 2 key steps that must occur in order for you to participate in the program. The first thing that has to happen is that you need to register your business as a vendor with what we call the PA Supplier Portal. And to do that, you're going to go out to www.pasupplierportal.state.pa.us. And once you get out to the PA Supplier Portal to register your business, what you're going to acquire here is what we call a PA Supplier Portal issued username and password. And that's critical information because those are the 2 pieces of data that you're going to need to actually access our online application. Once you're out to the PA Supplier Portal, if you have any difficulties whatsoever with the registration process, all you'll need to do is call 877-435-7363. Again, 877-435-7363. We have a help desk available to you, and there are folks that will literally walk you right through that process. Now, with that being said, once you have secured your username and password, the very next thing you want to do is actually enter the online application. To do that, you're going to go out to www.smallbusiness.pa.gov. Again, www.smallbusiness.pa.gov. That will take you out to our small business homepage. At the very bottom of the homepage, on the left-hand side, is a link entitled Before You Self-Certify. You're going to simply click on that Before You Self-Certify link, and once you do that, you'll be presented with a set of instructions that will walk you through the online self-certification and verification process. So the big takeaway at this point in time is that there are two essential steps that must take place for you to participate in the program, and we've just reviewed what they are. All right, what I'd like to do next is talk a little bit about the content or composition of the online application. And I've already made reference to this. We're not going to walk through all of the screenshots, although I do have a couple to share with you. But again, we want to talk about what this application consists of. And what it really is an 8-step electronic process. The first 5 steps of the application relate to the SBPI or Small Business Program. The second 3 steps of the application relate to the Small Diverse Business Program. So essentially, there are 2 programs in place to support small businesses. One is race and gender neutral, which is our small business program. The other is our Small Diverse Business Program. That's where your minority, women, or even veteran or service-disabled veteran business enterprise status has relevance. So we'll start with a discussion on the race and gender neutral program. The very first thing you'll see in the online application is a section entitled Business Eligibility. And what this is really about is the Commonwealth within this area of the application is simply setting forth the criteria that must be met in order for you to self-certify your business as a small business with the state of Pennsylvania. So to do that, you must have 100 or fewer employees. You have to be considered a for-profit U.S.-based business. You have to be independently owned. Your entity cannot be a subsidiary of any other company. You cannot be dominant in your field of operation. And last but not least, there are several revenue thresholds that you must be within, dependent upon what scope of work you provide. Those revenue thresholds apply to something referred to as business types. And the business types are nothing more than the areas in which the Commonwealth is setting aside these contracts. So we have a procurement services business type, a procurement goods business type, and an information technology business type. In addition to those 3, we have a construction business type, and we have what we call a professional design business type. When I say professional design, I'm talking about folks that are providing architectural and or engineering services. So since the majority of our conversation today will be centered around the construction program, the maximum revenue threshold that relates to the construction business type happens to be $20 million. So if you meet all the other criteria that I've shared with you, and your 3-year average gross sales income is at the $20 million or less level, you're going to be able to qualify for the program. Now, the second area of the online application is entitled Company Contact and Identification Data. And all this is an opportunity for you to tell us the name of your company, who the owner is, where the business is located, etc. It's very straightforward. Again, identity-related information. The third section of the online application is entitled Business Profile. And what you have an opportunity to do here is essentially further define what it is your company does. So as an example, if you've gone in and you've self-certified your company as a construction supplier, within the business profile section of this application, you get to further elaborate on what supplies you provide. So let's say you're a supplier of drywall. And what happens here is you can go out and type in within the business profile section the word drywall. The system will go out and identify every UNSPSC code that relates to the word drywall. And if there are 20 different types of drywall out there, the system will disclose all 20 types of drywall, and you simply select those that apply to what it is you provide, and that's how you further populate what you do by way of your scope. Now, The next area is entitled Document Upload. What you're required to do here is upload 3 copies of your tax returns. You're only required to provide the very first page of the tax return, but this is the data that the Commonwealth looks at to determine where your 3-year average gross sales income is. Last but not least, you have an opportunity to submit your application within Section 5 of the program. Now, the other thing you can do within Section 5 of the program is you can proceed on with verifying yourself as a small, diverse business. And we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about the small, diverse business side of the program, but it is important to know that within Section 5 is a box for you to simply check, yes, I want to proceed with verifying myself as a small, diverse business. Once you do that, you're crossing over from the race and gender neutral side of the application, and you're entering into the small, diverse business side of the application. I'll share this. As a bureau, the Bureau of Small Business Opportunity no longer is in the business of certifying minority, women, veteran, and/or service-disabled veteran business enterprises, but instead we're in the business of verifying that these entities are appropriately certified with what we call an approved third-party certifier. Currently, there are 5 different third-party certifiers, which are the Unified Certification Program, the National Minority Supplier Development Council, the Women Business Enterprise National Council, the U.S. Small Business Administration, which is a certification at the federal level, and last but not least, if you're a veteran or service-disabled veteran business enterprise, there's a certification with the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs Verification known as VetBiz. So again, what you're simply doing here is you're uploading proof that you're certified with one of these third-party certifiers through this online application process. We as a Commonwealth have an opportunity to look at that. As long as it is legitimate, you're also added to our database as a small, diverse business. Okay, so that's all the time I'll spend on the online application process. Just a quick screenshot here. I want to make sure everybody's familiar with what the first page of the online application looks like. If you take a look here, I've talked about all of this already. To the left is a program overview. Beneath that are all of the eligibility requirements that apply to the program. You'll note there's a link here to the executive order that I've referenced, so you can click on that link, go out and view the executive order relative to our small business program, and all of the steps that I've referenced are across the top of the page. This is a copy of the certificate that you will be provided at the conclusion of your self-certification and verification process. At the very top, we will denote that it is a small business certification. If, in fact, you've also verified as a small, diverse business, it will also denote that you're a small, diverse business. At the middle of the page here is information on all of the business types that the entity has self-certified and verified within. And at the very bottom of the page here is obviously the issuance date relative to the certification as well as the expiration date. All right, stay in the game. And what this is about is the importance of ensuring that your certification and, if applicable, your verifications do not lapse. And I'll give you a quick example of an unfortunate situation that at times occur. We have companies participating in our small business program that have moved through this self-certification process, placed their company in a position where they've bid on a project and they're the low bidder, but unfortunately the Commonwealth is in a position where we need to reach out and say, unfortunately, we're going to reject your bid only because you've let your certification or your verification lapse. So I want to talk a little bit about the renewal process to make sure that none of our small businesses find themselves in that position. Very first thing you want to know about the program is that the certification and verification is an annual certification and verification. What happens is 30 days prior to the expiration, the Bureau of Small Business Opportunities will reach out to you via email to say, hey, we've just unlocked your online application. You've got 30 days to go in and recertify and, if applicable, re-verify. Once again, 15 days prior to that expiration, we'll reach out again to say, hey, you've got 15 days to get in and recertify and re-verify your business, if applicable. If, in fact, that is not accomplished within that time period, on the very last day, on your expiration date, we're going to remove your small business profile from the database. Now, once that profile is removed from the database, there's what we call a 15-day grace period, where if you get in 15 days subsequent to that expiration date and renew your certification, you're going to be able to renew without any lapse in your certification dates. Now, you can get in after that or subsequent to that 15-day period, and I'll obviously renew. But if you do so, then you're going to be able to renew with the lapse in your certification date. So very quickly, just wanted to underscore the importance of making sure that you're recertifying and re-verifying your business within a timely basis. Once you've accomplished your self-certification, it's important to understand that your business profile will be added to our Commonwealth database. It's a great free form of advertisement. You want to keep in mind that there are a lot of different parties looking at this database, from various agencies within the Commonwealth to prime contractors to subcontractors to suppliers. So it's a free form of advertisement, and it's a great networking resource. How do you get out to the database? You're going to go out to www.smallbusiness.pa.gov. Again, www.smallbusiness.pa.gov. On the very left-hand side of the page, midway down, is a link entitled Small Business Procurement Initiative. You're going to click on that link. Once you've done that, you'll find yourself on the next page here. In the very middle of the page is a link that reads, click here to search self-certified SBPI businesses. You're simply going to click that link. Once you do that, you're going to be in our small business database. Now, there are a multitude of ways that you can search for data. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that, but once you've identified your search parameters and actually selected the search button, this is what is going to be returned to you. So from left to right, we'll provide you with the company name, the email, phone number, address, the business types. We talked about that already. So if a company has been self-certified in multiple business types, we'll disclose all of the relevant business types. And last but not least, there's a certification type column. In the certification type column, if the entity has self-certified for the race and gender neutral program only, we're going to denote an SB. If the entity has self-certified for the race and gender neutral program and has also verified their business for the small diverse business program, we will denote the designation, either MBE, WBE, VBE, or SDVBE for Service Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise.
Now, may I interrupt just for a moment and ask you, how would small construction contractors use this database? They're going to see themselves on there, but how does it benefit them to do searches? What is the purpose of that? Would they find subcontractors, or how would they use this in that sense?
Yes, and that's exactly what the small contract. Well, there are a couple reasons that you'll want to become familiar with the database as a small business. Number one, you can identify who your competitors are. Remember, with this small business program, for the first time in the history of the Commonwealth, we're setting aside contracts solely for smalls to compete for work. So what's happening here is, one, you can get in and identify who your competitors are, but in addition to that, you have an opportunity to go out and find out who subcontractors, prospective subcontractors and suppliers are to work with you in regards to any small business procurements.
You don't have to use those who are approved as your subs, or you do?
You do not, and I'm going to elaborate a little later on the criteria associated with our small business construction program, but very good question. The other thing I'll share here, and the last thing I'll share about the database, is you want to keep in mind, you take a look at the bottom of the screen, that you can export all of your results to Excel. Once you've moved this information over to Excel, you want to know that you can sort and query it however you would need to. All right, what we'll do now is talk about some of the specifics associated with the actual small business construction program. And I mentioned early on that we've made a number of modifications to the program, and again, we'll cover those over the next 15 minutes or so. Very first thing I want to talk about is what constitutes an eligible project for our SBPI, or Small Business Construction Program. And eligible projects are those that are now valued at greater than $10,000 but less than $300,000, and projects that relate to an agency that is under the governor's jurisdiction. So anytime there's an agency under the governor's jurisdiction that has a construction need within these financial parameters, they are required to now use our Small Business Construction Program. Now, for all of those agencies that are not within the governor's jurisdiction, they are not required to use the program, but certainly are highly encouraged to do so. Non-eligible projects are those that are equal to or greater than $300,000, which are considered our capital jobs. Any jobs that are below that $10,000 threshold, and any jobs whereby 100% of the labor force on the project is being performed by Commonwealth employees. In addition to non-eligible projects, there are projects that are exempt from the program. Exempt projects are any projects, again, that fall within those financial parameters that I've shared, that are considered emergency work jobs, sole source procurements, leasehold improvements, historic work, and any other work that the Department of General Services Secretary deems as exempt from the program. All right, we'll talk a little bit about the operation and structure of the Small Business Construction Program. And when I say operation and structure, I'm talking about the requirements that governs how the program works. So we'll engage in some conversation about the revenue thresholds that apply, the project bidding ranges that apply, any self-performance and subcontracting requirements that are applicable, bid security and bonding. We'll talk a little bit about workload and contract award restrictions, some insurance requirements that are applicable, state and federal laws that apply, and last but not least, we'll make sure that you know who's responsible for advertising and managing these projects. All right, first thing I'll share is that we've made some significant modifications to our Small Business Construction Program. And really, those modifications came about as a result of some invaluable information that we've received from our program participants. So we rolled the program out back in December of 2012. We made some modifications in September of 2013, and here we are in May with some additional changes to the program. The whole idea here was to make sure that we were making this program as conducive as possible to our small businesses so that we were increasing the number of companies that are bidding every last one of these procurements that are advertised to our small business community. All right, so we'll first talk about the 3-year average gross sales income. And what I've done here is provide you again with what the program looked like initially, what it looked like in September of 2013, but again, we're going to focus on what's in green here entitled the new program. So the very first change we'll talk about is what's happened by way of the 3-year average gross sales income. And what we've done here is that the 2 previous program gross sales income thresholds have now been consolidated into one single category referred to as the Small Business Construction Program. So when we initially developed the program, the idea was, yeah, we knew we wanted to set aside opportunities for construction contractors, but what we did was we took it one step further and we created several platforms within the program for companies to compete within. And those platforms were based on where a company's 3-year average gross sales income was. So for example, we had a Tier 1 platform, a Tier 2 platform, and a Tier 3 platform. The Tier 1 program was for the smallest of our smalls, the Tier 2 program was for our mid-sized smalls, and the Tier 3 was for the largest of our smalls. Again, as I've already mentioned, all of the programs have now been collapsed into one. Any company having a 3-year average gross sales income between $0 and $20 million now participates in one program.
And Oz, while you're going along here, since we want to keep it sort of short because small business people are so busy, let's focus on what the program is today and not recap so much what the program was. Would that be all right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. We've also expanded the project bidding ranges. So any construction contractor participating in this program now bids on any job between the $10,000 and just under $300,000 level. Okay. There's now a self-performance and subcontracting requirement that essentially says any contractor participating in this program must now self-perform 51% of the work with their own forces, which in essence means they can now contract out as much as 49% of the work. The program is much less restrictive now in that these contractors can now sub out work to non-self-certified construction contractors, which represents a major change. Okay, so as a self-certified contractor, you can now sub out and work with other companies that are not participating in the program at the sub-level. In terms of bid security and bonding requirements, we have what we call lower range jobs and upper range jobs. The lower range jobs are those valued between $10,000 and just under $25,000. There's absolutely no bid security associated with projects within these parameters. There's no payment bond required. There's no performance bond required. So the Commonwealth is taking 100% of the risk on the job. For the jobs that are valued between $25,000 and just under $300,000, the bid security, payment, and performance bond is very traditional in that the bid security has to be in the amount of 10% of the bid, and the performance and payment bond has to be in the amount of 100% of the dollar value of the contract. All right, in terms of workload and contract award restrictions, there are none. So any contractor participating in this program can now be awarded multiple contracts simultaneously, which represents a significant change when you look at the new program and compare it to some of the previous versions of the program. In regards to insurance requirements, there are absolutely no changes whatsoever. You're still required to provide general liability insurance, still required to provide workers' compensation insurance in regards to any projects being procured within this program. You want to keep in mind that the dollar value of those insurances needs to be adequate in the amount necessary to comply with any applicable law. All right, in terms of the state and federal laws that apply, we'll stay with this whole theory of lower range and upper range projects. Again, the lower range jobs, 10,000 to just under 300,000. There is one potential act that may apply referred to as the Davis-Bacon Act. And what this essentially says is that any time one of these jobs involves federal dollars to the tune of $2,000 or more, the contractor is required to pay their employees the federal labor rates. Okay? The upper range jobs, again, $25,000 to $300,000, there are a number of acts that apply. Number one, prevailing wage or Davis-Bacon is applicable. The threshold that requires the payment of PA prevailing wage is $25,000. So every one of these jobs will be jobs where PA prevailing wage applies. So essentially, all this says is, hey, you need to pay your employees the PA labor rates. However, if in fact a project is funded through multiple sources, in other words, it's state funded as well as federal funded, and the federal dollars are at the $2,000 mark or level, you'll want to understand that the Davis-Bacon rates trump the PA prevailing wage rates. The second thing that I'll share is that the Separations Act applies, and simply all this says is, hey, if in fact a contract involves GC, HVAC, electrical, and plumbing work, each of those projects, each of those disciplines has to be advertised, bid, and awarded separately. There's also a Public Works Employment Verification Act that applies, which essentially requires the contractor to inform the Commonwealth that their employees are eligible to work in the United States. And last but not least, the Steel Products Procurement Act applies to all of our small business construction procurements.
Quick question. Some of this legal stuff and how much you have to pay, you would need to know that before you bid to know what your costs will be. If people have questions, I'm assuming they can call your office and inquire and get a little assistance with that?
Absolutely. They certainly can.
And we're going to give the number now and again at the end. Can you give the phone number that they should call the main switchboard there at your office?
Yes. Best contact number is 717-214-6226. Again, 717-214-6226.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, in terms of who's responsible for advertising and managing these projects, again, with the lower range jobs, 10,000 to 25,000, what you'll want to know is that all of these jobs are now publicly advertised, which represents a significant change. This was not the case with the previous versions of the program. All of the jobs are advertised now out at www.emarketplace.state.pa.us. The Department of General Services, Public Works, has a responsibility to provide the using agency with the bid tab. When I say using agency, that's the entity or that's the agency that has the construction need. The using agency is required to award and administer the contract, inspect the work, and pay the contractor. For the larger projects, again, the upper range projects, there's really no change here. We've always advertised these jobs out at eMarketplace. That will continue. However, in terms of who will administer the contract, that's now going to be dependent upon the entity that has the best level of experience and capacity to do so. So either the Department of General Services will administer and award the contract, or the entity that, or the agency that has the need, and again, it's going to be dependent upon who has the best experience to do so at the time that the contract is awarded.
So, for example, with a larger agency like, prisons or some entity that has more experience in terms of capital contracts, we're assuming that that would depend on that, or if they're inexperienced. That might be DGS.
That is correct. And keep in mind that the Department of General Services is, within the Department of General Services is Public Works. And Public Works serves as the chief construction agency for all vertical Commonwealth construction. So they are the experts. And again, as Suzanne indicated, Either the experts, being Public Works, will oversee this process, or the using agency, depending upon who has the best experience to do so at the time the job is awarded. So very quickly, I want to recap some of the changes that we've discussed today in regards to our small business construction program. First thing that I'll share is, again, that the previous Tier 1 and small business construction program has now been consolidated into one single category referred to as a small business construction program. Okay, so any company having a 3-year average gross sales income between $0 and $20 million now competes in one program. No more Tier 1, Tier 2, or any other tier. Second thing, as a recap, is that small business construction contractors can now bid on any SBPI advertised construction project. Third, our small business construction contracts are publicly advertised. So again, remember, this represents a change with our previous program. At one level, the smallest of our small businesses, there was another way that we were notifying them of jobs. Every single job is now advertised on eMarketplace. The Tier 1 invitation to qualify has been eliminated, and that essentially was a second step that our smallest of our small business contractors had to take in order to be advised of and to bid on an opportunity. Again, that is no longer the case. All of the jobs are advertised on eMarketplace, so the onus is really on the small business to keep a pulse on the opportunity. Our small business construction contractors must self-perform a minimum of 51% of the work. Remember, they can now contract out as much as 49% of the work. You want to keep in mind that they can contract that work out to non-self-certified construction contractors. And then last but not least, you want to keep in mind that as a small business construction contractor, you can now be awarded multiple contracts, which again represents a change, a pretty significant change. With the previous versions of our program, the smallest of our small business construction contractors were limited to being awarded one job at a time. So again, that is no longer the case. Very quickly, want to make sure you know, I talked about eMarketplace a little bit. I want to make sure that you're familiar with how to navigate your way through the website. What you're going to do is go out to www.emarketplace.state.pa.us. On the left-hand side is a tab entitled Solicitations. You're going to click on Solicitations. Once you've done that, at the very top of the screen in the middle is a tab that we've added that reads View Small Business Procurements. So you'll check View Small Business Procurements. Once you've done that, you're going to slide over here to the right and click on Search. Once you click Search, you'll be provided with every small business construction contract that's advertised at the time you click the search button. Very first column is entitled Solicitations Number. What you can do here is drill down on the information. So once you've identified a project of interest, you're going to click on that project, and you'll find yourself on this screen. In the middle of the screen is just a basic synopsis on the job. We're going to tell you everything you need to know to make a decision as to whether or not you want to further pursue the opportunity. We're going to tell you who to reach out to secure a copy of the bidding documents, when the bid date is. Again, all the relevant data that you'll need is presented here. And with that being said, the other, and this is really important, the other thing that we'll do out on eMarketplace is we'll talk to you about where the project is within the bidding cycle. And when I say that, there are essentially three major junctures within a bidding cycle that you'll need to be familiar with. If it's early on and we're at a place in time where plan holders, which we call plan holders, are picking up copies of the contract documents, we're going to tell you who those plan holders are, so you know who to reach out to if you're looking to serve as a subcontractor and or supplier. If in fact the bid has been the bids have been received but not yet awarded, we're going to tell you who all the bidders were, what their respective dollar values of their bids were. Last but not least, if the bid has been awarded, we're going to tell you who the awardee is. So again, we're going to make sure that everybody knows how to access this data.
So it's all transparent. You can see who won, how much they bid. You don't feel cheated without knowing the details.
Completely transparent. Thank you. So what you're going to do is you're going to go out to www.dgs.state.pa.us. Again, www.dgs.state.pa.us. On the left-hand side of the screen, about midway down, is a link that reads Construction and Public Works. You'll click on Construction and Public Works. Once you do that, there are two How Do I columns kind of in the center of the page. The one on the right, third bullet down, reads Find the latest bid results on projects. So you'll simply click that. And once you click that, you'll find yourself at this screen. Now, what you want to do here,
I'm seeing a split screen.
yep, what you want to do here is this. Several slides ago, I talked about the solicitation column, which was the first column here, and I talked about the fact that you could drill down on this information. So what you're going to do back here is you're going to simply write down any projects of interest. Once you work your way to this section of the screen, you're going to click on the search button. Once you've done so, you'll be presented with this screen. The most important column here is the first column entitled Element ID. All you're really doing here is looking for your corresponding project number. Once you've found that number, you're going to click on it so you can drill down and access the data. And as I previously mentioned, there are 3 pieces of data that you'll be able to acquire here. One, if the project is early on, we're going to tell you who the plan holders are. So these are all the companies that have secured copies of the contract documents. These are prospective or likely bidders. Okay. The other thing we'll provide you with here are the bid results. Again, if we have not awarded the job, but we have received the bids, we're going to tell you the names of the companies that bid, and again, each of their respective dollar values. And last but not least, if in fact we have received the bids and have awarded the job, we're going to talk to you about the name of the awardee and the dollar value of the award. So again, everything you need to know about the status of a project can be provided to you through this section of the website. Very quickly, in regards to our small business construction program, all of the reference documents that apply are made available to you via the website. What you're going to do to access that information is go out to www.dgs.state.pa.us. On the left-hand side, midways down the page, you're going to click on the link that reads Construction and Public Works. Also on the left-hand side, at the very bottom of the page, is a link that reads Small Business Design and Construction. Once you click Small Business Design and Construction, we're going to provide you with all of the relevant construction documents on down through the actual bid proposal form that you'll need to use to submit a bid in regards to any of these small business construction procurements. So again, I just want to thank you for your time this morning, and please don't hesitate to reach out to Oz Anderson at 717-214-6226 if you have any questions whatsoever about our small business construction program.
Now, is there a main number as well people can call for the main office and leave a message? What's the main number for that office?
The main number is 717-783-3119. Again, 717-783-3119.
Oz, thank you so much. This has been Oz Anderson from the Department of General Services, Bureau of Small Business Opportunity, and we want folks to know they can, if they can't get any success reaching someone there, we're happy to have you call NFIB, which is 717-232-8582, and we'll try to help you get a hold of information, and we're going to keep this online so you can reference it if you've forgotten a web page or a phone number. Thank you so much, folks. Have a great day, and thank you for participating.